presents Silence Speaks, Secrets Revealed, a radio drama about child sexual abuse. It contains subject matter that may be triggering for survivors. Discretion is advised.
As we have seen, abuse can happen anywhere by anyone. Places of worship are no exception. Today we visit a retreat held at the Church of Holy Oneness.
Let us think on what suffer the little children means. Let us think on the meaning of forbid them not to come unto me, for such is the kingdom of heaven. Suffer is an interesting word. To feel pain, hurt. But here Jesus means to put up with, deal with. Take responsibility for the children's spiritual growth and understanding. Not just the good children, but the loud ones, the crying ones, the annoying ones.
And the hurt ones.
Yes, and the hurt ones. I'm not bothered by them. And don't do anything to stop them from coming to me, Jesus says. In a greater sense, the message is we are the agents that must help children know who God is. Yes, Carrie, question on the reading?
So you mean if someone hurts a child, that person stops the child from seeing God?
In a sense, yes. It will always be with God, but any wrongdoing done to a child prevents that young soul from truly understanding God's goodness in this world. And anyone who doesn't help a child does the same. Now let us open up our hearts and petition.
I would like to pray in Jesus' name for my husband Gregory. He's fighting stage 4 lung cancer. It has been so difficult. I wish God's light could just shine on him and our whole family. Amen.
Let's pray for the children who are molested. I pray for God to help them when they don't have anyone to turn to.
Amen. Let us also pray for churches everywhere to provide true sanctuary and support for abused children, that no church official covers up not one more case, and that the abused receive healing so they can truly know God's justice.
Wait till we get home. You like to throw words? I have something for you. Meet me in the car.
Carrie, hi. I like your question and your petition. I'm Dr. Dennis. I deal with this issue. If you need anything, here's my card.
Thanks. My mom's waiting for me.
Thank you for listening to Silence Speaks, Secrets Revealed. If you or someone you know has been sexually abused, please dial 911 in an emergency or call the Women's Coalition at 340-773-9272 to find out how you can end child sexual abuse.
Hi, and welcome to the after show. Let's talk about it. A live call-in talk show to continue discussing the weekly episode of Silence Speaks, Secrets Revealed, a radio drama about child sexual abuse, presented by the Women's Coalition of St. Croix. The stories are fiction based on fact. If you would like to send a question or comment, and you're not comfortable with your voice being on air, or would like to remain anonymous, please send us a private message on Facebook at the m.me/WCSTX. That's m.me/WCSTX. I'm your host, Shalene Gums, and today with us we have as our guest, Reverend Attorney Shelby King-Gaddy. The phone lines are not working, so you can't call in today. But send us a message, send us some kind of a message on Facebook, and we'll be sure to try and answer your questions if at all possible. Once we get them, we'll be able to do that. I'm wearing orange today. Today is Orange Day. February is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. The hashtags are TDVAM and hashtag Love is Respect. And this week, February 11th to 15th, is Respect Week. Tomorrow, the 14th is Valentine's Day. Let's make it not about what you can get, but the love you can give. Let's pay attention to the relationships our teens are in. And though the law says that the age of consent is 16, but only if the person is up to 5 years older, anyone under 16 cannot consent. So remember, the phone lines are not working, but you can send us a message on m.me/WCSTX. Welcome, Attorney Gaddy. How are you?
Wonderful.
Thank you so much for being with us. I know that you're completely busy.
Thank you for inviting me.
And I'm going to let you do a little of your own bio, because you have so many things that you do. You have so many things that you do, even though, yes, you did give me a long page. But, and you all can read about all the guests that we have on our Facebook page, because their bios are there.
Well, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Well, I carry a lot of titles. The most important one is that I'm a person who cares in our community. I am, yes, the Reverend and Attorney Shelby King-Gaddy. And a little bit about myself is that I went to Fisk University. I graduated and with degrees in psychology and sociology with an emphasis on child development.
All right.
I am a teacher, a lecturer. I've been an adjunct professor at a couple of different universities. And I'm a graduate of the Georgetown University Law Center. And as such, I am licensed to practice law both in the states of Maryland and in the Virgin Islands and in multiple federal courts.
All right.
All of that doesn't mean anything if you don't care about people. So my most important role besides doing all of that is I'm both the executive director at Legal Services of the Virgin Islands, which assists those that some of us might call the least of these, who are underprivileged, they are underrepresented, and oftentimes they are persons that are living in poverty. But they're also victims of domestic violence, and that has no social economic status.
True.
I am also an ordained elder in the AME Zion Church, and I pastor the Medford AME Zion Church here in Christiansted. Along with my roles as executive director and as pastor of the church, I'm involved in a number of community activities. I participate a lot in community service. I have volunteered through membership in certain organizations. I've been a Rotarian. I've been on the Junior Achievement Board. I have done Mental Health Advisory Council, Senior Medicare Patrol Council, and I'm also on DVSAC's Faith-Based Committee, and that's Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault Council of the Virgin Islands. And I've worked with the Housing Authority on their Program Coordinating Committee. And to top all of that, I also sit on the Virgin Islands Access to Justice Commission. So I'm a little busy.
She said a little busy. Okay.
But I do so through not only being a Rotarian, but I'm also a lifetime member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority.
All right.
So.
Oh, well, see, now that she said all of that, you can understand why we called her to be here, and appreciate the fact that she took her time to be here, because with all those things that she needs to get done, we really appreciate you. I mean, it's only a half an hour, and we're going to make sure that it stays to a half an hour, so that you can get back to the 15 million things that you do about caring for people. But, today we wanted to talk about the role that you have as the pastor of the church, and your role in the place of worship. Not only because you are the pastor of that church, but also because of all the other community things that you do. So in the episode that we had, the church was having an event, and one of the children, they brought up about children being molested and how the church responds to that. Over the past couple of years, the church has been the source of a lot of people's pain, especially when it comes to little people, which is what I call children. When it comes to little people. And so now that they've grown up, they're talking about it. But how do you see places of worship playing a role in the healing? Because we've already seen how they can destroy. But in terms of healing, what do you see as the role of the places of worship?
Well, the first thing that has to happen is that the leaders in the church, or people who are in the church that are involved with our youth, our children and our youth, they have to be educated to know the signs.
Right.
Children don't always talk about what happened, but if you're in a leadership position, you have to know how to identify the signs. A child used to be very active in the choir. Now they no longer have a desire to go. Maybe that has something to do with an experience they had interacting with an adult that was inappropriate, but they don't know how to articulate it. But we have to be their eyes and ears, and we have to be able to identify the signs that something has happened to this child. And oftentimes, yes, it does happen at the hands of someone they trust,
right,
someone they're familiar with. So the first thing is we have to learn how to identify. And then we have to learn what to do when we've identified a potential situation that was a sexual assault or sexual abuse or just improper touching.
Right.
So once we can identify it and we are educated in what to do about it, and people don't take that very lightly.
No.
People in the church believe that I love you like I love, the God that we serve, and you ought to be happy about it.
Right.
And they don't always understand what improper touching can be.
Right.
So first we have to identify the signs, but we have to be educated to know how not to commit those things against our children, whether knowingly or inadvertently.
Right.
That's the role. The church has a role in educating itself. And then in educating itself, you have to know what to do about it.
Right, exactly.
So after you know what it is, you know how to identify it in a child, then you have to know what to do about it. Everyone is not equipped.
That's true. That is very true.
And it oftentimes isn't the role of every person in the church to deal with it. I believe it has to be someone removed or someone in a position of authority so that the child is comfortable that something is going to happen.
Right.
And it's not going to be swept under the rug, because we know that's our history.
Yes, sweep it under the rug. Very far under. Put a lampshade on top of the rug that it's on, and then put a vase on top of that.
And you see, this is no different than other domestic violence and sexual assault. Churches have not necessarily been very open.
True.
To accept that it happens, and it happens in the church.
Right.
It happens to your members. And so what you've got to be able to do about it is your church has to make a commitment that it is not tolerated, and then whatever it is that happens, we have to deal with it. We have to face up to it, we have to own up to it, and then we have to address it. And to address it means that some of our members do have to be taught how to handle it. No, you don't bring the alleged perpetrator and the child in the same room.
No.
You just don't do it.
Do not.
But some people don't understand that's not a part of the healing.
Right.
That's not a part of the fixing the situation. And our church has made that commitment. We have a charter in our church that basically says we don't tolerate domestic violence, sexual assault of any sort, whether it's children, adults, whatever. And in doing so, we've spent some time not only educating leaders, but we talk about it from the pulpit.
Well done.
We talk about it from
that
the
is
pulpit.
Necessary.
Because people don't know that it's there if you don't talk about it.
Right.
Because everything is not roses and sweet smelling things that happen in our lives. So places of worship have to deal with everyday experiences, all life experiences. And this is, believe it or not, one that happens more often than we like to admit.
Yeah.
So we have to identify it, we have to educate ourselves, and then we have to address it. And when you address it, that means that there's no stigma attached to the child who brings it up.
Right.
Whether just in a discussion or not. Because remember, sometimes in the retreat when the discussion comes up, that child is speaking from personal experience.
Right.
But they may say it in a third person kind of way.
Yeah, because they're afraid.
Adults do the same thing.
That's true. They dress it up in all kinds of ways.
So, I mean, it is something that the church has to confront head on, because it's something that has to be addressed, and especially when it happens at the hands of someone who is trusted in the church, someone that child is looking to, as you said, as it was said in the scenario that was presented. Now does that child no longer want to have any contact with God because their only experience with God came at the hands of one who molested or sexually abused them?
Yeah, and that's something that it's very important for us to look at, because somebody's faith belief, their basis of their faith is the source of their strength. When you take that away by someone that is in a position of authority, pastors all the way down to church leaders, to bus drivers, to anybody that come and they try to totally destroy the image that they would have in there. Because what happens is, and we've had cases like that where there've been pastors in the church and they've brushed it under the rug, or they've hidden it, or they talk around it, or the child becomes the bad person. We've had pastors' wives, we've had pastors' sons, we've had bus drivers, we've had deacons, we've had the whole entire gamut that have been perpetrators, but we don't really talk about it. And like you said, a lot of times they use too, which is something that we've seen, they would start to use scriptures to justify their actions. And there's a lot of things that would get us upset, but you often wonder how they monitor their faith belief. If they're using the exact same thing to justify themselves, then you start to wonder, well, how do you think you're going to pay for this? And it becomes painful.
There's something in the church that we've identified as scripture abuse.
Scripture abuse. Spiritual abuse is something I've been preaching for a very long time. Because it uses it to have people just really cause more than one problem to happen. If I am, how do I put it? If I have a belief, or if I think that this is where my source of strength is, and the only thing that I'm told is to, well, you're supposed to obey and you're supposed to forgive and move on. It always leaves, and because I've had this question, I mean, being a crisis counselor, I've had this question. So if I have to forgive them, then what happens to me? You know, one of the reasons why the scene was important, because do we then take away, and not just from children, and we are talking about children specifically in these episodes, but does it take away from who God would be to me? You know, and how does that work out? And then who gets the sin charge? You know, and that becomes difficult to question.
Well, we have to remember that in a situation where there is an assault, a sexual assault, or sexual abuse, you have two victims, really.
Right.
Because both the alleged perpetrator or the perpetrator, as well as the person who was abused or touched improperly or molested, both parties are a victim. So both parties are due forgiveness from the God above, because unfortunately, the one who was assaulted or abused oftentimes feels guilty.
Right.
And they carry that guilt.
Yeah.
And that's as wrong as it is for the person who has committed the act, to
Right.
have committed the act. And so we have two victims that have to be healed from
Right.
the situation. Some people say, well, I don't care about the perpetrator. Well, we have to, because part of it may be that person's orientation, their education, their cultural knowledge, or their cultural experiences. It may not be something that they recognize is, in fact, sexual assault or sexual abuse.
Right.
If I'm rubbing the child on their shoulder and it happens to be a child of the opposite gender, it may be considered improper touching. And yet, all I really wanted to do was to console the child.
Right.
Have I gone too far? We have to know when too far is too far. But we also have to recognize that both people in a situation are victims.
Yeah, and that's where the struggle will come for most people. Because if I've heard, and looking at it from the church perspective, and looking at it from the perspective of the fact that my body's hurt, my soul is hurt, my soul is broken, and now, you know, we don't know how to see the other person past the fact that you've done, which is what we do on society on a whole. And victim blaming happens a lot as well, you know, and it starts to happen more and more because we, like you said, there's not the education. There's not the talk about how is it that I have to apologize, or both people become victims when you hurt me.
Well, the thing is this. I'm not suggesting that one is greater than the other, but what I am suggesting is that there's a problem that has to be addressed on both sides.
Right.
And to do so means that we have to be equipped. We have to know how to address it. It doesn't mean that what you did wasn't any less wrong when you improperly touched, molested, or sexually assaulted a child. But it does mean that we need to deal with it, because whatever it is that causes you to do that, or causes you to want to do that, or causes you to think that that's okay, we need to address it.
Right.
But we have to address it in a way also that allows them to heal from it, so that prayerfully they won't do it again, or they no longer have a desire to do it again.
Right.
But we have to address children. In our society, I believe our children should get more deference than adults, because our children are going to carry that for the rest of their lives. Adults are less likely to change than children are to grow out of a situation. So I believe that the children have to get, if we have a, and it sounds terrible, but if we have a battle of resources, my vote is the resources goes to the child.
Right. And I agree. For more than one reason. One, because the children really don't have a say for themselves anyway. And so they're supposed to be protected, which is why it gets really, really difficult when they can't be protected or they're not being protected, because they can't make a decision for themselves. They can't decide, well, this is happening to me, I'm going to move out of the house.
Well, it's also one of the things that I've seen a lot of churches move to, and our church has moved to it, our church generally, the AME Zion Church has moved to it, in that there are background checks now.
Right, which are necessary.
For persons who are going to be in leadership positions. And especially, I think it carry forth to anyone who's going to be involved with children.
It does.
Anyone who is going to be involved with children in any youth programs, any contact at all. I mean, other social organizations, other organizations I'm involved in, we do that. Because it's important. You can't participate if you don't understand what it is, and the training has to take place. So it's just as important in places of worship.
It is. And because it has so much weight that is carried with your faith belief or your faith base, it definitely, because it's a source of strength for so many people, which is why it becomes very important. All right, so as usual, we're running out of time. So let me ask you the last question. You answered a lot of the questions, so, and we literally only have like 9 minutes. This was quick.
I'll ask a question.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure. You know, and we talk about the fact that we have 30 minutes, and 30 minutes seems really, really long when we start, and then it turns out to be very, very short.
Flies by. It's Carolyn. Hi, everybody. So you wear this interesting two hats, right? Or multiple hats, as you talked about before. But I wonder what your thoughts are on reporting. So you talked a lot about counseling and about pastoring to folks that maybe are perpetrators as well as the victims, but where do you see the church's responsibility in reporting? Because these are crimes, right?
Reporting.
So where do the churches, where are their responsibility in that? Because unfortunately, I think, like Shalene, I've seen many times where when we talk about sweeping under the rug, they say, oh, we're just going to pray about it and we'll deal with it in-house. And so I kind of wondered what your thoughts were around that as well.
We are persons of faith who live in this world.
Right.
And as we live in this world, while we may not be of this world, we live in this world, and so we are bound to abide by the same rules and laws that are placed upon us. And one of those rules and laws is that reporting must occur. And you see, it wouldn't be a problem if we've done the education on the front end, because if you know that it's going to be reported, because the church is going to take it just as seriously as any other place that you may be involved with children, then you understand that that's a potential consequence. And I think that reporting has to occur, because it may be that person is doing this outside of the church.
Right.
So where I stand on reporting is that it has to occur.
Right.
I think we guide people through all types of situations. It's no different than any other type of crime that a member of the faith-based community commits. You deal with it and you help them through it, but we still are bound by the laws of where we live.
So. Right.
Thanks.
All right. And so I'm gonna ask you the universal question, and then I'll let you, say whatever it is you would like to say to end up. But if you had one wish for the community when it came to a solution to this problem, what would it be?
Just one.
Just don't do it. I think that it's important that we understand, just don't do it. It's not tolerated, and that it will be dealt with properly. And the solution is don't do it.
Don't do it. That's even simpler. Just don't do it. Don't do it. Don't perpetrate. Don't victim blame. Don't choose the child. Don't groom the community. Don't groom the parents. Don't groom the children. Just don't do it. I think I'm going to stick with that. Just don't do it. Don't do any of it. Do not commit the crimes. Do not hurt each other. Just do not do it.
There we go.
Do not do it. So is there anything that you'd like to say? I mean, like, we're wrapping up, so anything else that you'd like to talk about or you'd like to mention?
I always like to give the plug for Thursdays in Black, that until there is no more rape, sexual assault, domestic violence in this world, we're black on Thursdays. It doesn't have to be total black, but it has to be primarily black. Thursdays in black. It was something started by the American Council of Churches, and so we have taken it up along with DVSAC and other organizations, and we teach it, we wear it, and we hopefully have prevented some of it.
Awesome. So Thursdays in black, and don't do it. So I'm just gonna, I need to talk about something because we, and then I'm gonna do the closeout so we can, we can go. We've had a lot of exposure of a lot of people that have been arrested for sexual assault over the past couple of weeks. And we've had a lot of people coming out. Thank you for everyone that's told their story, that something has been done. I know how hard that can be, and I know how much victim blaming that the community has done. I have heard people talk about 10-year-olds and 15-year-olds and 13-year-olds, and I've had people have conversations that I wouldn't think that they would be having on social media and otherwise about children. And it's very, very painful because it's not a problem until it becomes my problem, but it's all of our problem because it's always our problem. And it's always our problem because if we have hurt people, they will hurt people. And if we can't fix both the victim and the perpetrator, we're always going to have a broken community. We do not want a broken community. Hurt people, but healed people, heal people. And we want a healthy village. We don't just want a village, we want a healthy village. So even though it may be your family member and it may look bad, because a lot of times it's about image, we need to pay attention to the fact that if we continue to destroy our children, if we continue to have the exposure, if we continue to call them fast girls, if we continue to call them just our culture, that's what boys do, boys will be boys. If we continue saying those things, we're not going to change what's happening. We're glad that the exposure is coming out, but we are really, really sorry to all of the victims that have said something, and now they've been victimized by everybody else. And I know that sometimes you just wish that you hadn't said anything to anybody because you don't want to deal with it. But thank you, and you do have people that believe you. We do believe you. We do know that something happened. Even if you can't explain yourself well, we believe that something has happened. And we know that it's been happening because we can see how our community has taken a decline in a lot of ways. And that's just proof that something happened, and it's been happening. And because we want it to end is why we're talking about it. We're given the information. Now that people know that it's wrong, like Reverend Attorney Gaddy was saying, if you know that it's wrong, stop doing it. Just don't do it. If you know that you don't have anybody that you feel you can tell, social media is there. Our Facebook page, you can always send us a private message. You can call our office 773-9272. If it's something that is a crime that needs to be reported, call 911. There are units that are there specifically to deal with these issues. And so please, don't keep it to yourself. Tell somebody and tell somebody. And if you see something, say something and do something. Don't wait until it comes back home to you. Do it because our home is our home. It belongs to all of us. We all live here and we want to have a safe community. And so thank you, Attorney Reverend Gaddy. I'm going to get your title mixed up for the rest of it because you're just awesome, Shelby, to me. So thank you for tuning in to Silence Speaks, Secrets Revealed, and the after show, Let's Talk About It. This program is funded by a grant from RALIANCE, a collaborative initiative to end sexual violence in one generation, made possible through a commitment from the National Football League, yes, the NFL. Its contents are solely the responsibility of the authors and do not represent the official view of the NFL, though it should, or they wouldn't be spending the money. If you need help, please call us, 773-9272. If you need legal services, their number is 718-2626. That's 718-2626. Thursdays in Black for solidarity against domestic violence and sexual assault. This month, the color is orange. Today is Orange Day. If you didn't wear it today, you can wear it any other day. Just wear something orange for the rest of the week. For the rest of the month, actually. This is Respect Week. Love is respect. Love each other, not love to hate, not love to get, love to give. All right? Thank you so much. We appreciate you, and we will see you next week.